And the reason why I want to talk about how that's important is because, you know, a lot of all that led to, and all that connection with Bambaataa, to Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force making like an incredibly important record called Planet Rock. You know, this is an electro funk, electro rap, however you want to kind of talk about it, record that, you know, is a pop and lock style dance record, you know, classic jammer, but it definitely not a disco rap joint, you know. But it's Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force, which was his group of MCs, rappers. But this electro funk style, you know, actually then eventually, you know, you have to understand, like, this is all happening, nothing's happening in the West Coast. Nothing's happening in LA, really, hip-hop wise. And at first, you know, the West Coast, LA specifically, was like decades behind what was happening in New York City. It just you know, they were still doing like disco rap style. At least the rap on the West Coast was still disco rap style, like dress, fishnet and shit. You know, in the mid '80s, you know, like Dr. Dre and Ice-T and shit were on that. But electrofunk really took off on the West Coast. It became real popular here. This song is produced though by Arthur Baker, real important producer. He produced a bunch of records that we'll eventually talk about, like Herbie Hancock's Rocket from his Future Shock album. He produced a lot of important seminal records of the early '80s. And the important thing is you have to understand how this record was made, and that's why I talk about it. The most important thing is there's no samples involved yet. The only, you know, sampler that was around at the time was super limited, cost 50 grand or something ridiculous like that. It's called a Fairlight CMI, computer musical instrument, which was both a synthesizer and a sampler. And you know, whatever. So there's no samples in the song. But what happened was Baker basically used two really interesting instruments here and techniques here that went on to become, get developed and became like a signature in hip hop. First, he used a Roland TR-808 drum machine. And we'll talk about this more. The Roland 808, you know, y'all know these sounds. If you've listened to any trap music, it's like all 808 sounds, all tons of 808 sounds, and probably not from someone playing the 808, because the 808, the TR-808, was a major financial bomb. It just sucked because the drums didn't sound like a real drum machine. At the time, people would use drum machines to have like a drum backing, or to thicken up actual drum sounds or whatever, or to, you know, play a little drum loop and then play piano over it or whatever. So Baker used the 808 to play the drums for this, to program the drums. And you gotta understand that 808 does not sample drums, it just has a bunch of drum sounds in it, and you can basically, you know, program and using a sequencer basically to, you know, have a snare hit on the 1, 2, that's where the snare comes in, 3, 4, that's where the snare comes in, or whatever, and you can program your hi-hats and all your other sounds, claps and stuff. He used the Fairlight synthesizer to replay the melody from a Kraftwerk song called Trans-Europe Express. Trans-Europe Express and Kraftwerk was a krautrock band. It basically means German rock music. Bambaataa actually would play that record at his jams, and so that became a major record. Now this, you know, for hip hop heads, at least in Bam's circle, and you know, the thing is, you know, at the time, you know, no one knew to clear record, like clear stuff. So in this case, there's no sample. They're interpolating or replaying just a part, just like in disco rap they would have a band replay just a part. This is an electronic way of replaying just a part. Eventually, Tommy Boy Records, which this was released on, which is a very important record label, some seminal hip hop records came out on it, like early De La Soul stuff. But you know, the key here is they got their asses sued, you know, because they didn't clear the rights, the compositional rights, basically, to replay that melody in the song. So, you know, just didn't know at the time. No one knew about clearing just to use a part, you know, of a song. So that's a real important element here. Hopefully I'm not too backlit. See the sun over there, it's breaming my neck. But anyways, you know, I just want you to hear like a little bit of what was replayed here and etc. So these instruments are super important, especially the 808. You know, just became like one of the signature drum machines of early hip hop and rap music.